Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. Tonight's a very special occasion, and I'm delighted that we're here to recognise and celebrate the work of Monash Alfred Psychiatry Research Centre, which is such a mouthful that we're all used to calling it MAPrc. To begin with, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting this evening and pay my respects to the people of the Kulkarni Nation. As Chief Executive of Alfred Health, and on behalf of Monash University and everyone here at MAPrc, it gives me great pleasure to formally welcome the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, Her Excellency, the Honourable Quentin Bryce. I'd also like to acknowledge the attendance of many other VIPs, testament to the support that MAPrc has generated. Parliamentary Secretary for Health, Ms Jayashri, Chief Psychiatrist of Victoria, Dr Mark Oakley-Brown, Senator Penny Wright from the Australian Greens, Federal Member for Higgins, Kelly O'Dwyer, Alfred Health Board Member and Board Chair of Mind Australia, Mr Julian Gardner, Simon Safachi, the Director of our Alfred Health Mental Health Services, and of course MAPrc Director, Professor Jayashri Kulkarni. MAPrc Advisory Board Member and Chair of the Mental Health Council of Australia, Robert Melton's expected, but I haven't actually seen him this evening yet, but I would like to acknowledge him in his absence. Chair of the National Mental Health Commission, Professor Alan Fells, has also been able to join us this evening. Pro-Vice-Chancellor of Major Campuses and Student Engagement at Monash University, Professor David Copolov, who will be speaking shortly. Senior Academic and Community Representatives. I'm not going to do battle with that noise, because I know what it is. Senior Academic and Community Representatives from Deakin University, Monash University, Swinburne University, and the University of Melbourne. And most importantly, community representatives, staff and friends. In 2002, MAPrc was established with the appointment of Professor Kulkarni as the Director of the Department of Psychiatry Research at the Alfred and Professor of Psychiatry at Monash University. By blending the Alfred's clinical expertise with the academic excellence of Monash University, the successful programme flourished at translating clinical research into effective new treatments with direct and immediate outcomes for those most in need. 1 in 5 people will experience a mental illness in their lifetime. As home to the statewide service for acute mental health care, the Alfred provides a vital, sometimes even life-saving support for Victorians living with all levels of mental illness. This care takes place both here in our community, mental health precincts, at the Alfred, and in several community-based settings. In combination, the services offer coverage for people of all ages. This integrated approach, drawing clinical and community-based mental health care together with research achievement, has been the key to continued success of MAPrc. Under the direction of Professor Kulkarni and her team, it's become a driving force in pioneering new and innovative treatments. These treatments have come in the form of advances in transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS, for the management of depression, as well as several targeted programs and initiatives to assist women living with mental illness. Together, these programs also reinforce Alfred Health's commitment to supporting research-driven clinical outcomes. And they're just 2 examples of the many achievements we will hear about this evening. As I said earlier, we are indeed very fortunate to have the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, Her Excellency the Honourable Quentin Bryce, here with us this evening. The Governor-General has been patron of MAPrc since 2009 and has a strong interest in advances being made in the development of new treatments for mental illness. On behalf of Alfred Health, Monash University and MAPrc, thank you for joining us this evening. I'd like now to invite Her Excellency to come forward to say a few words.
Well, I hope I'm going to have better luck with the microphone. Yes. I marvel at the way we can do so many things in 2013, but how vulnerable we are to microphones wherever we are. Professor Jayashri Kulkarni, Director of MAPrc, members of our federal and state parliaments, the Honourable Robert Knowles, Chair of the Mental Health Council of Australia, whom I too acknowledge in his absence, Professor Alan Fells, Chair of the National Mental Health Commission, distinguished guests all. I just want to begin by saying how exhilarated I am by the experience I've had seeing some of the outstanding, wonderful, inspiring research that's been done here. I've had many discussions about it. I'm deeply interested in mental health issues, but to come here and talk to scientists, to engineers, to the multidisciplinary teams here about what is actually going on in the fourth floor. It's uplifting and utterly inspiring. I had the hide to ask a couple of the researchers how old they were, because I was reflecting on the marvellous young, dedicated researchers that we have. I did assure them that it's not my habit to do that, but I just reflected on their contribution to a vitally important area of research for our community, for our country, and indeed for the world. I'm delighted to join you as patron for this special occasion, the formal launch of the Monash Alfred Psychiatry Research Centre, as you call it, MAPrc. And I'm aware that this centre has been growing steadily since its inception at Dandenong Hospital in 1994, the move to the Alfred Hospital in 2002, and now this wonderful new purpose-built place. And I was flattered by the information that they've got a special extra clean-up for me. The location in a corporate building in the general community is significant because it means that we have co-location of the Monash Alfred Psychiatry Research Centre with the St Kilda Road Community Psychiatry Clinic. And this represents a remarkable shift from the treatment of psychiatry patients behind the walls of asylums on the outskirts of our cities. My friends, as a nation, we have come a long way in our efforts to diminish the stigma attached to mental illness. The MAPrc model of conducting mental health research side by side with clinical practice, all based in a community setting, is an innovative approach and one that could be replicated in other parts of Australia. I do have a keen interest in mental health research and some enriching experiences working in the field, particularly when I was at the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission, and we did a major inquiry led by Brian Burdick into the human rights of people with mental illness, but also my engagement with the Schizophrenia Foundation and ARAFME, wonderful community organisations that have given so much in increasing our understandings and knowledge of people with mental illness and their family's special needs. I've been greatly impressed by Professor Kulkarni's passion, energy, creativity and commitment as she directs the Monash Alfred Psychiatry Research Centre with 170 staff and students conducting 102 clinical trials. I have appreciated and enjoyed our conversations about the direction of the research and the need for new responses to the severe mental health problems experienced by a large number of people. As the name describes, the Monash Alfred Psychiatry Research Centre is part of two prestigious institutions, Monash University and Alfred Health. My friends, MAPrc has the advantage of being able to draw on the resources of one of Australia's best universities, as well as on the skills of the finest clinicians based in Alfred Health, a valued Victorian hospital network. MAPrc has the catchphrase, "We mend minds." The aim, to develop new treatments, new understandings and new pathways for people with severe mental illnesses such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, autism and other debilitating illnesses. There are an estimated 1 million Australians who have persistent mental illness. These are truly debilitating illnesses such as depression, schizophrenia and autism that do not respond to existing treatments. MAPrc is a clinical research centre with the unique capacity to translate research discoveries into innovative new treatments. 3 separate treatment clinics that are part of the centre allow direct translation of research findings. The co-location of MAPrc with psychiatry services of the Alfred Hospital makes it a truly translational research centre. And MAPrc has a number of world-first discoveries and world-class research leaders. Professor Kulkarni has a distinguished reputation for her work in the understanding and use of hormones for the treatment of women with schizophrenia, depression and other mental illnesses. Professor Fitzgerald is a world leader in the development of brain stimulation techniques for depression, including the development of deep brain stimulation. Other groundbreaking research includes Professor Rossell's work in cognitive strategies for people with schizophrenia, Dr. Enticott's new brain stimulation treatments for autism, Dr. Kate Hoy's work with magnetic seizure therapy, Dr. Maller's work with diffusion tensor imaging, Dr. Stuart Lee's consultancy work with large service delivery programs in mental health. I want to express my respect and admiration for these dedicated medical researchers, and I value so much the opportunity to meet and to talk to them this afternoon. I describe myself sometimes as one of those non-scientists, and there are many of us in Australia who are fascinated by science. And I don't think we hear enough about the contributions of our world-class leading scientists to our community. Let me emphasise that the central theme here is that all of the research is centred on people with mental illnesses and their families. This is a very important and rare model of research, to have the research work carried out side by side with patient care. And I'm told that people come from right across Australia and from overseas to be seen in the special clinics run by MAPrc, seeking cutting-edge treatments. It's an honour for me to be the patron of the Monash Alfred Psychiatry Research Centre. I wish you every success for the next phase of the centre's journey. Now I'm going to lift the curtain. We're going to give me a hand here. Just that, if I may, how proud I am to have my name on this plaque and to reflect on what it signifies and represents in caring for people with professional skill, commitment and dedication.
Your Excellency, we do have On behalf of MAPrc staff and students, we'd like to present you with this small token of our great esteem and our undying thanks for your visit and your patronage of our centre. Now, this is a picture of the brain using diffusion tensor imaging. It really is art meeting science, and diffusion tensor imaging is an interesting technique. So that's showing you the thought networks that are in the brain, and we hope that you'll think of us fondly when you see this painting.
Wow!
Thank you very much. Your Excellency and many, many distinguished guests, thank you so much, all of you, for coming here tonight to celebrate this wonderful event with us. I know, for example, Mr. Andrew Ways had to redo a whole lot of interstate travel to be with us, and we're very grateful to you all. This is a wonderful occasion. We've heard about some of our start at the Alfred, but in fact our story goes back to 1994, as Her Excellency has said, when we started the Psychiatry Research Centre at Dandenong Hospital. I was the newly appointed Director of Psychiatry there, the first ever academic at Dandenong, and the hospital gave me a grant. I think it was something like $15,000, and with that money I employed Anthony D. Costello. He comes cheap. Anthony D. Costello Stella was the first ever research staff member that I employed back in 1994, and at that time there was a very youthful Paul Fitzgerald, who was the first year registrar at Dandenong Hospital doing his psychiatry training. So the three of us have been working together since 1994, and we are known as the Three Amigos or the Three Stooges, depending on who you actually speak to. But it's been a wonderful 19 years. I'm totally indebted to my very great colleagues, Anthony De Castella and Paul Fitzgerald, in terms of the number of significant events, the highs, the lows, the camaraderie, the incredible ideas, some of which never quite see the light of day. But it's just been a wonderful, wonderful journey at working with such talented people for 19 years, and I hope we continue to do that for many, many more years. We moved in 2002, and several significant events have happened. In 2009, I was very, very fortunate to meet with Her Excellency and to have the benefit of some wonderful conversations, and to have Her Excellency as our patron has been magnificent, so thank you very much. In 2010, Mr. Andrew Way took over as the CEO of Alfred Health. Andrew Way gets it. He really does understand the nexus between research and clinical practice, and how one informs the other, and how the outcomes are actually benefited by both. And this comes from his work in the UK, where he set up a number of academic health science centres. And so with Andrew's help in 2010, we actually developed an advisory board, and Mr. Rob Knowles has been the chair of that advisory board, with a number of wonderful people who've been very instrumental in helping us. We've also enjoyed being part of Monash University. In 2012, the Dean of the faculty, that's Professor Christina Mitchell, who unfortunately is interstate, also gave us permission to join the Central Clinical School, which is based on the Alfred campus. The head of the Central Clinical School is Professor Stephen Jane, and Gavin Horrigan is the manager, and we are delighted to be part of this school, which has the finest clinical researchers, the finest physicians and surgical researchers that we can work alongside with. We are all about people. Our whole work is about the person with mental illness. And what we're trying to do is develop new treatments, new understanding, new ways forward to help people with mental illnesses like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, autism and others to have a better quality of life. In our setup of the research centre, Anthony, Paul and I have conducted ourselves with a mission statement, which is that we aim to conduct excellent, world-class psychiatry research with equality, respect and understanding. The equality that we espouse is between researchers and between us and the clients that we serve. So, for example, it's not uncommon to have ideas put forward by the most junior of medical students or the junior of other types of students. We welcome this. This is fantastic. This is new, vibrant thinking. And so the person is empowered to speak up, as well as the old seniors that have ideas as well. And that's the equality that we're looking for in our centre. We don't do research to subjects. We conduct work with participants, and there's an enormous amount of collaboration that goes on in terms of equality between us and the people that we serve. Respect is the second pillar of our group. And the respect is for each other as well as for other researchers. In this very competitive world, sometimes it can be almost that sense of the dog-eat-dog mentality, and that's dreadful, because in actual fact, what does move the field forward is for us to all respect each other's work. And in our centre, we don't have the competition between the researchers from various fields. It's really interesting. People come from diverse areas, but not one researcher is above the other, and so on. So we work very collaboratively together. We also respect research that is done by others outside of our centre, and we aim to work with people in a very harmonious and collaborative sense, because that is what's going to move the field forward. The understanding is the third pillar, and understanding is, I think, code for empathy and for sympathy and compassion. In science, it's all about the logic, but actually there's another part of science which is the emotion and it's the passion. And by understanding what people are suffering and what their day-to-day experiences are, those who experience mental illness, we are better able to be better clinicians and to be better researchers. So we don't shy away from emotion. We work in a field that is about emotions. And I think this is another very important factor for our clinics as well as for our research. We have unusually long consultations, 2 hours sometimes, with cups of tea and toast. And that is about setting people at ease. And then we can actually start to understand what they need. So we are striving to move the field forward, to develop new treatments, to develop new services and new understanding with respect, with equality and with understanding. I'm very grateful to a number of people who made today possible, and in fact this was a wonderful team effort. I'm very, very proud of MAPrc. We've got some brilliant people and everyone pulled together to bring today to fruition. Particularly like to thank Kate Hoy and my long-serving and long-suffering PA, Guyanne Demel, who were just brilliant in bringing it all together. But what a fabulous team effort. We're so delighted that we have the resources of Monash University. The people wearing white shirts and red lanyards are medical students. So there's about 20 medical students from Monash University who are helping out. The musicians are also from the Monash University Performing Arts section. So we're very delighted that we have all of these resources at our fingertips. I'd like to thank in particular people who have spoken today. Mr. Andrew Wade, we owe you a great debt of all sorts of gratitude for you for helping us to be here and to continue our work in these wonderful surrounds and with the collaboration. We also are very grateful to Professor David Copolov, who is representing the Vice-Chancellor of Monash University. We also have the Deputy Vice-Chancellor from Swinburne University. We have members from our board, Mr. Jack Jacoby. We have Professor Bruce Singh from the University of Melbourne, Janet Mitchellmore from Jean Hale. Many, many people, our colleagues in industry from Janssen Sealag, from Roche Pharmaceuticals. We're very delighted that you're all with us on this journey. So the future is very bright in psychiatry. The advances in neuroscience, in genetics, in biotechnologies will enable us to apply that to the field of mental health, to come up with new treatments, new understanding and new service deliveries. Thank you all for helping us with our work because we want to keep mending minds.
Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to represent Monash University at this launch and to pass on the warm and sincere congratulations of the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Ed Byrne, and the Chancellor, Dr. Alan Finkel. You know, it's true. It's actually 11 years since Jayashri and Paul moved from the Dandenong Psychiatric Research Centre, and so it's taken this time to have an official launch. But it took Charles Darwin 15 years since the beginning of when he started writing Origin of the Species to when he published it. So any excuse is a good one, and it's wonderful to have a vice-regally enhanced launch today. The Vice-Chancellor would have liked to have been here, but he's in a delegation accompanying the Prime Minister, and today it was announced that there would be an Australian Centre for Indonesia Studies, and it would be based at Monash University. The relevance of that to today is that it's all about partnerships. Monash, as the largest and most international of Australia's universities, is very strong on collaborations and partnerships. And we're proud to be part of a partnership at the national level, and we're also proud of our institutional partnerships. And one of the most important ones that we treasure is that with the Alfred Health, an outstanding tertiary hospital. Even though the Alfred is 19 kilometres away from our main campus at Clayton. In fact, the Alfred was mainly associated with the University of Melbourne until 49 years ago, and we're so pleased that it changed allegiances at that time. MAPrc, as the Governor-General mentioned, has outstanding research record in areas such as psychoneuroendocrinology, women's health, neurotechnology and the like. And it's also does wonderful work in cognitive neuropsychiatry, mental health services research, and psychopharmacology. The metrics of MAPrc has shown that in the past 8 years, the number of research grants have increased from 17 to, the number of publications, research publications have increased from 17 to 97. And the research income has increased from $1 to $3 million, and including 13 NHMRC grants. And much of the research strength of MAPrc can be attributed to Anthony Di Castello, the research manager. Now, MAPrc also has a wonderful tradition in educating medical students and psychiatrists in training. It's interesting that Health Workforce Australia has projected that there will be a shortage of 450 psychiatrists by the year 2025. Medical students have very mixed ideas about psychiatry, but when you go upstairs to MAPrc, the vitality, the enthusiasm, the sense of purpose that Jayashri and her team have, it's just wonderful. It's a great antidote to anyone who's got mixed feelings about psychiatry. And Jayashri, as the driving force behind MAPrc, has been a wonderful colleague. 25 years ago, I appointed her as a research fellow when I was director of the Mental Health Research Institute. 25 years ago. If you look at Jayashri, the way that she's handled the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, you'd think she would have just been starting high school. But she'd been graduated 7 years by that stage. And she was a wonderful research registrar and research fellow. And I knew she was destined for great things because of a number of ingredients. She has a deep commitment to her patients. She loves psychiatry. She's an excellent communicator, and she has wonderful entrepreneurial spirit. So, on behalf of the university, I'd like to congratulate MAPrc and the 170 staff associated with it, and thank you for the many contributions you're making to ensuring that some of our most complex, baffling, and devastating illnesses are adequately researched. And I'd like to thank you, Your Excellency, for your generous patronage of MAPrc, and it adds a very, very important prestige and endorsement to the centre, and for your very encouraging words. And I'd now like to invite everyone to adjourn for cocktails.